What's up, gang? For all you returning listeners, welcome back. If it's your first time listening to the show, please like and subscribe on whatever platform you choose to listen to the show. We're available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, just about every platform that you can think of. You can find us there. Please like and subscribe, even leave a comment, what you liked about the show, what you didn't like the show. We do read these, and we're very gracious for them, and we love y'all's feedback. Next on the show is Oakland Chief Reggie Freedman. It was an honor to meet this man, much less have the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with him. He has had a very interesting career, starting in Mississippi and the things that he had to deal with there, all the way to where he is now in Oakland. Quite a lot of meat and potatoes in between. He gets into a lot of that stuff, as well as his style of leadership. It's one that we can all take something from, and he shares a lot about that as well. Appreciate Chief Freedman coming on the show. We really appreciate that. And here's Chief Freedman.
Yeah, we've been lucky. There's not been normally the feeling of that kind of feeling where it's so formal and stuff like that. I told you in the text message, it's totally casual. Mm-hmm. There's no agenda. We don't have scripts. It's just conversation. But it normally it's fun to watch that progression. You're a communications expert is what I told Steve. I was like, dude, he's a communications wizard. Yeah. It's like, but you know how it is. You see people relax and that kind of thing. It's fun to watch for sure.
So you said that he's just testing to see if I was BSing when I said, do not refer to yourself as an expert in anything. Right. Just trying to see if I was paying attention.
Uh-huh. Communication wizard. That's not expert.
Right. That's right.
That is a wild perspective, though. There's a lot of folks that probably deem themselves as experts, subject matter experts. That was a really interesting perspective to hear you, especially on leadership.
You just can't, man. I think it's impossible. I truly believe it's impossible to be an expert in leadership. Just like you have great doctors, you have great lawyers, and they practice their craft, but that's why they practice medicine and they practice law, to be efficient, to be effective. We got to do the same thing with leadership. So, for anyone who refers to themselves as a subject matter expert in leadership, I'm immediately weary.
Yeah.
Because it's so difficult. Anyone who understands leadership understands the complexity of the art.
Yeah, it's constantly changing. Like you mentioned today with generations changing and all that. I mean, tactics, our communication tactics, they have to change.
Absolutely.
The philosophy of that reminds me of, we were talking one time about if somebody walked onto a fairground and just started explaining how good they are, that's not going to be received very well,
Happens all the time.
Yeah. You can show me, and you can have confidence, but don't tell me how much of an expert you are.
Exactly. I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah.
I need to be with this company because I've done this. It's like, okay, well, this is the agility test.
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
Yeah, it happens. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
Chief, where do you come from?
So interesting background, man. I was born in Louisiana. So my pops, he was retired. He's now retired Air Force. He was a non-commissioned officer. Did 20 years, retired as a master sergeant. And he met my mom when he was assigned to Barksdale Air Force Base in Bossier City. So I was born in Shreveport. We moved around every other year. It seemed like sometimes it was every 3 years. But after Louisiana, went to Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. From there, went to Eglin Air Force Base in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. After that, went to Germany, Geilenkirchen Air Base, which was a NATO base, had NATO AWACS assignment. After Germany, we went to Houston, Texas. After Houston, we went to Myrtle Beach.
Whoop, whoop.
And Bill Clinton, once he closed Myrtle Beach, we got sent to McCord Air Force Base in Tacoma, Washington. From McCord Air Force Base, we then went to Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, and that's when he retired. And my pops, he's from Mississippi. He's from the Delta. He's from Indianola. So most people haven't heard of Indianola, but most of everyone has heard of B.B. King. So B.B. King, he's from Indianola. And he wanted to be closer to home. So when we left Langley, which is in Hampton, Virginia, but we lived in Newport News, Tidewater area, we went to Biloxi, Mississippi on the Gulf Coast in 96 and graduated high school. That's why I met my wife, 96, junior in high school. Graduated high school in '97. Was a decent athlete in high school. Also a collegiate athlete, and got hurt, and that's when I got into the fire service.
Where'd you go to school?
So started off at Southern Miss.
Okay.
And got hurt, got a job at the casino. Alumni got me a job at the casino. Did everything from valet up to a table games host before I got into the fire service.
A table games host.
Yeah, what is that?
So anyone coming into the casino spending money, whether it be blackjack, roulette, you name it, if it's a table game, my job was to make sure that they stayed entertained and continued to give us their money.
I mean, it does seem important. You know?
Yeah, it does.
That's right.
How old were you when they graced you with this responsibility?
21. 21. So imagine a 21-year-old kid walking around the casino like a peacock. Thought I was Lucky Luciano.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was real fun.
I believe it. Wow.
Is that in the area of the country where it seems like there's a rule, like the casino has to be floating or be in the water? Or
So pre-Katrina, that was the case. After Katrina, they allowed the casinos to be land-based.
how about that? Okay, well, that makes sense. But I thought it was so weird. I was in Louisiana once on a trip, and when we were walking, you couldn't tell you were going onto a boat or something. But just being around docks, I was like, what we're going onto is not solid. Yeah, and then
That's right.
somebody told me that. Yeah, what a weird thing. So after Katrina, they shut that down.
Yep. For Mississippi anyway. Not sure what they did in Louisiana, but for Mississippi, they allowed the casinos to be land-based.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, you moved around a lot.
I did.
That military life.
That's right.
So Pops was an AWAC pilot?
No, he did computer maintenance analysis.
Okay.
354th Fighter Squadron.
Where did I dream that up? You said something
in
about
Germany. They were
Germany. Yep, he was
Okay.
assigned to a NATO base, and it was an AWACS assignment.
Oh, okay. I got you. That's where I got it from. I was like, I know I didn't pull that out of left field.
Yeah.
I got you. Cool. So, did you get to meet anybody cool doing these casinos, or is it just local stuff or local high rollers, or was
So you had the locals. I remember Cash Money came through the casino.
What?
Yeah, that's back when they were all together. That was pretty interesting to see them up close and personal, but was able to host Tupac's mom, Emmett Smith, Dr. J, Dominique Wilkins. That was fun.
I bet.
That was a good time.
Emmett Smith. That's
Yeah.
my boy. I love that
Yes.
guy.
Yeah.
Yes. He's good people. He's real good, real humble guy.
I hate to linger on the subject, but I'm very intrigued. So, how did this work? You just ask them, "Hey, can I get you this? Can I get you that?" And then you just run to the kitchen or whatever, and you say, "Hey, I need this."
You don't ask them anything. They just tell you what they want.
Okay, so they know what you're there for.
Exactly. You're gripping and grinning all
Okay.
day or all night.
You're gripping and grinning, grabbing that money and smiling.
That's
Okay,
right.
that's neat.
That is
Wow, what a hell of a place for a 21-year-old to land.
That's
Yeah.
right. They ask for anything between burgers and anything else you can possibly imagine. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll let my imagination work.
What was the injury that got you out of sports?
Achilles, tore my Achilles tendon.
I'm not jealous.
And I could have stayed, and that, I've always struggled with pride, having too much pride. And I've always also been very passionate. So I was All-American in high school, track and field, All-American my freshman year, also in college. So I had the opportunity to retain my full scholarship. But because I got injured, I said, no, I'm not going to hang around school. I don't want to see my teammates train and go to meets and, fulfill their dreams. And I'm over here just studying, going to school. That should have been what I was doing, but I decided to walk away.
FOMO,
That's right.
fear of missing out.
That's right.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. Wow. So, how did we land in the fire service?
So my barber at the time, PJ Davis, he was saying, hey, city's looking to hire firefighters, and I think you'd be great. You really ought to think about putting in for it. And at first I wasn't sure if that's what I really wanted to do. And I don't have those cool stories like a lot of my buddies. They seen a fire truck drive by the house at 3 years old, and that's when they knew they wanted to be a firefighter. That wasn't my story. So just like a lot of families, drug addiction had a terrible impact on my immediate family. Someone very close to me and my family was addicted to crack cocaine. And so my goal early on was to lock up as many drug dealers as I could as a U.S. Marshal or a DEA agent, just a federal cop. But then when I looked into what it takes to be a federal cop, it's one of two options. You have to have a criminal justice degree and be a street cop, or you have to go into the service and then, of course, be law enforcement in the service. And I just wasn't interested in doing any one of those options. Right. So what intrigued me about the fire service, because after he told me about it, I started looking more into it. It was physical. There was a team aspect. And that's what really made me gravitate towards the fire service. And then the people perspective and serving perspective. Once I learned about that aspect of serving in the fire service, I was hooked. There was no turning back.
Yeah, I'm with you. The reason we're even here today is you came and did your presentation for our little department here in New Hanover County, so we appreciate that for sure.
Great department.
You don't have to blow smoke. We appreciate it. No, we appreciate it. I've often thought with the hiring pool, especially, we talked about this a little bit in class today, as well as dinner, a little bit of our issue with the hiring pool, and when we get into the whole diversity side of things and all that, is the athlete, the high school and collegiate athlete. For us here locally, it's an untapped market.
Right.
Like, we're not at UNCW, asking these soccer players who, they can all aspire to become pro soccer players, but let's be real, what's that percentage? So what are you going to do after that? Or the softball players, the UNCW softball team just won a freaking championship. Are we over there? Hey, ladies, what's going on after this?
That's right.
I think it's an untapped market. I think it was neat that your barber, I want in my brain to say that's because he knew that you had a lot of athletic ability, and that's supposed to be what this job is about. His physical ability is a big part of it, but we're like high school kids. We're not at high schools getting into the meeting with the football coach. Hey, can you give me 5 minutes before practice on Monday morning or Monday afternoon? Let me get up there and pitch the fire department a little while. Let me just plant a seed. Absolutely. If I get one out of the next 5 years, success.
That's right.
I feel like there could be a lot more groundwork done in order to get into this quality of person that we want to hire on and continue our service after we're gone.
So much opportunity, man. And, not even to mention the collegiate athletes that you're referencing, but even starting at a younger age. So when I approached the mayor in Oakland and pitched the idea of us having a OUSD, Oakland Unified School District, which is our public school system in Oakland, having an OUSD to OFD pipeline to where we have 10th graders, 11th graders, and 12th graders. They're selected to participate in our program. They're taught by our members in the Oakland Fire Department. At our academy, we have these kids for 3 years. They go through the Firefighter 1 and 2 curriculum. They turn 18. They take their test for EMT. And then we have a certain number of positions reserved for them just for our kids that's in this program. And for those other kids, even if we can't hire them, now they're trained and they're certified. They can go anywhere in the state of California and be a firefighter. And so that's spreading the Oakland love, Northern California love throughout the state, and taking care. And these young men and women and young persons, they can take care of themselves and their family. It's just something that we're very excited about rolling out here in the very near future.
That's cool. Even if, like you said, they don't get one of the positions that you reserved, that they got that kind of already that sense of pride and ownership that they went through Oakland's process through high school. And I'm sure the surrounding departments that are looking to hire also say, well,
Hell of a foundation.
Yeah, maybe. There's potentially a lot of potential here.
They're employable.
There Absolutely. You go. Yeah, employable. He's way better at this than I am.
what a great program. Hopefully that catches on. Like you're right, man. We need to be hitting that group like you guys are talking about doing.
That's right. We have in Oakland, we got a few folks, former NFL players, and I just hired one. One just finished the academy. I think we're up to 3 former NFL guys now.
That's good. That's good. We got some baseball players. That's about it. Well, I don't know. Other than Pete, who was upstairs at dinner just a minute ago, other than Pete, do we have any more ex-pro athletes?
Erskine.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we had a guy that was a rugby player, stud, like played for Cups.
That's a grown man.
Yeah.
Rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. He's in Washington State now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Another one we were talking about earlier, the folks we watch the backside as they travel on.
Yeah.
Another one. Yeah.
Wow.
But hey, they all got better, so can't fault them for that.
That's right.
Yeah. He's a training captain now with, what's the name of his department? West Pierce. Yeah.
Okay. Pierce County. That's Tacoma.
That's right.
Tacoma's Pierce County.
Yep.
That's right. I always say Tacoma, but West Pierce. Yeah.
Nice.
That's cool.
That's a beautiful area.
It is.
So you're new into the fire service now. Your barber has officially recruited you in it. What was your like first impressions? Did you go through an academy or anything first?
Went to the State Fire Academy.
Okay.
Mississippi State Fire Academy.
Okay.
And that's in Pearl, Mississippi. So Pearl's right next to Jackson. Might as well call it Jackson. And it was.
It must have been lightning or something.
My computer's still going. So
Yeah, my computer never stopped.
is still going.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Man, that was wild. It had to be lightning, I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah. Had to.
Or somebody slammed into a pole or something. Who knows? Another one.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Who knows?
That's right.
Well, sorry, before we were so rudely interrupted.
Yeah. Yeah. Jackson, Mississippi.
Yep. So Academy's in Jackson, Mississippi, and you can work for up to a year in Mississippi before you go to the academy. And I pretty much worked that whole year before I actually went, and it was great. Time of my life going through the academy.
Yeah. I had a good academy experience here. Ours was long, but I didn't know. Did you visit places and get an idea before did you use that 1 year of work before the academy?
No, I was on the job working 24/48s.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I didn't know anything I didn't know how the schedule worked, nothing. I also didn't have that story like the 3-year-old that sees the fire truck. But I got in the academy and then started to kind of get an idea of this culture. And then once we
right.
got on the truck, it was off and running.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that structure, organization, and discipline I got at the academy, I use that to this day. That's still my foundation as a fire chief, is what I learned as a brand new recruit firefighter. Structure, organization, and discipline, still use that principle.
That's nice. What a good foundation.
Definitely.
What was the first assignment like?
It was a learning experience. It was being the only African American firefighter in Mississippi in 2001. You would think things would have been a lot different than what they were, but I had my issues, I had my challenges, and so to have to experience the things that I did in 2001 that a lot of people who came before me experienced in the 60s, 50s, even 70s with significant racism, that challenged me personally. It challenged me to not react the way I wanted to react personally, but to remember who I was as a person as far as my ethics are concerned and my professionalism, and to do things the right way in spite of being mistreated.
How were you mistreated?
So you name it, it happened. Being called the N-word on a regular basis, hearing the N-word, having broken glass on my bunk boots, noose in my locker. In one instance, it was really hard because this one particular time, a guy that I went to the academy with, who I considered us to be very close.
Right.
I'm walking through the day room. They're playing Street Fighter. And as they're playing Street Fighter, he's all into the game and he's going back and forth. And he says, come on in, kick his butt. And so Now I get to the door to go outside as he says that, and I stop and I look back. And I said, man, you too?
Right.
I expected it from other people, but not someone who I went to the academy with.
Yeah, a brother.
Who we started our dream. We started our dream together, our dream job. My brother. I didn't expect that out of him. So it was challenging. It was challenging.
You think that was just negligence because they didn't know, or it was malicious, like it was on purpose?
So, Matt, it's funny you say that. So as we get outside, so I go outside and I look through the corner of my eye and I can see him following me. So get outside and he says, Reggie, I'm so sorry. And this is his exact words. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember exactly what he was wearing, how short his pants were. You see his black socks. I can remember it just like it was yesterday. He said, Reggie, I'm so sorry. I say it so much outside of work, it slipped. Those were his exact words verbatim. So, life was challenging even prior to the fire service. I told you about, my family member with the drug addiction. It broke up our family. And then having that experience in the fire service, God challenged me or has challenged me for quite some time. And I always knew there was a purpose, there was a reason for it. He was preparing me for something. And fast forward to the day, I'm so blessed and so fortunate to have a beautiful family, first and foremost. So many great opportunities here in Wilmington with you all, traveling the world because of the fire service, being able to have conversations such as this and be part of making our profession better. Now I know why I went through all the things I went through. It's because I can have opportunities like this.
Yeah, that's so opposite, I would say, of probably how most people in society would act. Put in your position, most of them would have thrown up their hands and been like, shit on this.
I've got my ass on my shoulders over much less.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Wow, that's it's amazing to me, the self-awareness that you had to know that this was not one, what my beloved fire service. I'm guilty of saying that all the time. I don't think anybody else owns the fire service, just me.
Yeah.
But that it's more than that. It's this is not the way it's gonna be forever.
That's right.
Yeah, I commend you for that.
And it's for me, as an athlete, I can honestly say I was a savage. My personality, I'm type A personality, consider myself an alpha, and I was just a savage as an athlete. So that same energy I just transposed, it transcended into my profession and me wanting to better myself. So when other people were sleeping, I was doing what I had to do as an athlete. So even as a professional, I'm always reading, always studying, always trying to better myself, always trying to take a class, always trying to pursue a degree for that enlightenment. And going through the racism that I experienced, I think it does one of two things to someone. It either turns them into an animal and someone who's just angry at the world, and then they're going to project that on other people because they're hurt. So that's one option. The second option is to be a catalyst for change and to ensure that no one else has to experience what you experienced because of racism or bigotry. And I chose the latter.
It's pretty profound.
Yeah, just letting that sink in for a second.
That's I suck.
Yeah.
I've chose to take the much different path many times.
Oh, it was hard.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It was hard.
I'm sure.
As a man, I have pride and never backed away from anything or anyone. But at the same time, I didn't want to react a certain way, especially in the firehouse, because I knew that's what they wanted me to do.
Right.
I'd be fired. It's my word against anywhere between 4 and 8 other people. And no matter what the truth was, their story was going to prevail. So I knew better than to do what I really wanted to do as an individual. I let firefighter Freeman, make the appropriate decision.
Well done. If I was looking at like a stock chart, and we're at 2001, was that kind of behavior? Was that the peak of it, and it got better throughout time, or what was that? Was it better or worse, or did you find? How long did you stay at that department?
4 years.
Yeah. So in that 4 years, pretty much the same.
It was pretty consistent. There's another scenario to where a captain, we're outside talking, and there's a street in Biloxi. It's called Division Street. You know, poorer area, so to speak, from a social economic standpoint. And so this captain tells me, he says, Reggie, I don't think just the black people on Division Street are N-words. I think the white people on Division Street are N-words too. And so it was said so loosely, so commonly all the time, as if it was nothing, as if we're talking about the Yankees and the Red Sox in the playoffs. And that was my experience. And so, again, today, as a fire chief and even as a seasoned fire chief, I have zero tolerance for any form of discrimination or racism or bigotry. It's not going to happen on my watch, and it will be promptly addressed to the fullest extent of my office. Zero tolerance. Because, again, I know how it feels like. And anyone who's been on the receiving end of any type of bigotry or racism, they wouldn't dare impose that on someone else because they know how much it hurts.
Right.
Unless you're an animal and you're hurt yourself.
There's a comparison there. I'll see if I can paint this picture. But somebody that would be told that was a good job on a fire, they have character traits, you know, like wanting to put the person first and wanting to step in the way and I'll put up with some pain to help you. Mm-hmm. That same character trait clearly was what you were exhibiting through that and now with the zero tolerance. It makes sense in my head. I don't know that if I hadn't heard the story in person, I don't know if I could have made that parallel, but the character trait that makes a good firefighter, it's got some side benefits too, you know, like everybody needs a fireman friend.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So how long were we in this department?
4 years.
4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Consistently dealing with the same shit for 4 years?
That's right.
Jesus, brother. God almighty. This is 2001.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So where to from that department?
So left Mississippi at the time, because Mississippi, if y'all didn't know, it doesn't pay too much money. So when I first...
It's the fire department.
Must have been like North Carolina.
So when I first got on in 2001, I was making $19,500 a year, working 24/48.
What you do with all that money?
Oh, man, balled out.
Yeah.
Me and my 87 Buick Century, man, we were hitting the beach.
Yeah.
I married my high school sweetheart, and so my wife, out of the two, she's the intelligent one. She went straight through from high school, got her MBA through University of Texas, Arlington. And so we had her student loans. She's working at Bank of America as a teller, making $8 an hour. So between her $8 an hour and my 19.5, you know, we're balling. And I'm working now total of 4 jobs. So I'm working at the fire department, my 24/48 as a firefighter EMT. I'm also teaching at the State Fire Academy as a part-time instructor. And at the time, it was great money. It was $25 an hour for 2001. That wasn't bad.
That is great money.
And actually, excuse me, not 2001. That was probably 2003. I started working at the State Fire Academy part-time. So fire department, State Fire Academy. I'm cutting grass also on my days off. And then I'm stocking groceries at the grocery store. Brookshire's, to be exact. So I had 4 jobs. And I was exhausted. But again, I'm from the South, from Louisiana. So one thing my father instilled in us is his work ethic. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't that lovey-dovey father as a career NCO man. He was his father was a sharecropper in the cotton fields in Indianola. My dad, before school, went to the cotton fields to help his dad. Before school. So that's the work ethic my pops had. So when the things happened with our family, with the drug addiction, I'm watching my father work. Now, he's active duty Air Force. But to make ends meet, he's working a total of 2 other jobs. He has 3 jobs just to take care of me and my brothers because all the money was taken out the account and the money was jacked up. Car that had a lien or a note on it was gone. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. So me watching him work, that's what gave me the example of at all costs take care of your family. Mm-hmm. And so I remember it was a summer and I came home and I was exhausted, cutting grass. And my wife looks at me and she has tears in her eyes. And she says, will you please let me get a second job so I can help pay the bills? And I remember I looked at her and I said, I'll work 6 jobs before you work 2. Because I felt it was my job and my duty to take care of my wife. So teaching at the academy, recruiter comes for Iraq. And he's recruiting folks, trying to get them to go over, telling us what the salary is and all that good stuff. And at first, when I first met him, I'm like, yeah, that's not enough money to possibly die and to lose your life.
Right.
And so fast forward, after me working 4 jobs for a good 6-7 months, he came back again. And I said, how much you say the job pay? So I take the job the second time he comes around. So they hired me as a captain. I go to Iraq. First assignment was Mosul, Camp Marez, or FOB Marez, Forward Operating Base, and FOB Diamondback. So Marez was more of where the life support areas were, some facilities for soldiers, but the airfield was Diamondback. So we provided fire protection for the airfield and then, of course, all the structures on Marez. And I was immediately acting assistant chief, being assigned to Mosul. The following year, I was promoted to assistant chief, but then acting chief. The 3rd year, promoted to chief. And then the 4th year, they moved me to headquarters in Baghdad, and I was the chief of compliance, safety, and planning. And at the time, we had 32 firehouses throughout Iraq.
What years were these?
2004 to 2008.
Let's see, 04 to 08, Iraq. Yeah, she was popping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was 04, 05 was dicey.
Yeah.
06 as well. But 7 and 8, it was quieter.
Right.
But 04 and 05 was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Did you get much fire duty?
A lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of mass casualties. So we weren't permitted to leave the wire, as they say, or leave the post. It's a FOB is a forward operating base. It's smaller. COB is continuing operating base, which is a little bit larger. So your Air Force bases, they were considered more so COBs. They were larger. Victory was a COB. Liberty was a COB also, but it was a lot of mass casualties from what we call IDF, indirect fire attacks. So that's rocket and mortars being lobbed at the base and them hitting LSAs or hitting the PX, the MWR, Chow Hall, all that stuff happened frequently.
Talk about coming in and getting after it. So we're hired in 2001 in Mississippi, and by 2008, we're head of 32 fire departments in another country.
That's the accelerated program.
Very unorthodox route. Absolutely.
Yeah, you said that several times in class. But I believe it speaks to your ability, and it speaks, I mean, I think probably in traditional fire history, that's probably looked down upon, right?
Most definitely.
So it's, but you walk the walk. I mean, you didn't just miracle your ass into all these positions. You had to make moves, strategic moves to be there. And I'm sorry, but you don't just get invited to go to Iraq by any Joe Blow with a nasty history. I mean, it's quite an achievement. And you're still young, even now. I mean, you've gone through, I'm sure we're going to get into some more of your fire department stuff, but relatively speaking, I mean, you're young.
43.
43, 21 years, right?
21 years in the game.
21 years in the game. God, dude, you got a heck of a resume.
Yeah.
So back from Iraq, where are we at?
So leave Iraq, and then I land at Lockheed Martin Air Force Plant 6 in Atlanta, or Marietta, Georgia specifically. No one's ever heard of Marietta, but everybody knows Atlanta.
Right.
So Marietta, it borders Atlanta.
Okay, so
And shares the airfield with Dobbins Air Force Base.
did you have that in because of Iraq?
Yeah.
Okay. Was that so? Did they help you with that when you got back? Or?
No, not at all. Just through relationships.
Okay. So you're just networking while you're over there.
Absolutely.
Continually looking at the next step. Look at you go. I'll tell you what. All right, that was a short term there, right?
3 years.
3 years, and then
Hartford, Connecticut.
yeah.
Hartford, Connecticut, get an opportunity to go there as their assistant chief of support services, and that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. It's a traditional fire department, storied fire department. We had the Barnum and Bailey Circus Fire, had the Hartford Hospital Fire. Phenomenal firefighters in Hartford. They get after it.
Yeah. I think you said in your presentation today that wasn't the newest, when you were there, the newest fire station was like 79 years old?
77.
77 years old. I remember
Well, the average age of the firehouse is 77 years old.
77.
Yeah.
That's right. I tell you, I looked at Jeremy when you said that, and I was like, that's got to be so cool.
Yeah.
There's so much history built up right there.
Absolutely.
How were you received there?
I was well received. It was a phenomenal group of firefighters. It's still New England, right? So I had to come in and prove myself. I had to earn the trust, earn their respect, which I knew that walking in, so that wasn't a problem. And just did that by not trying to be anyone other than myself. You know, it is what it is. Didn't come up through the ranks at Hartford. They brought in an outside assistant chief, I think maybe once before. And so I learned a lot about the New England Fire Service, because the New England Fire Service is different from the fire service.
Sure.
And to be able to serve those firefighters, it was a remarkable experience.
That's saying like you had to earn your trust.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at that as a negative thing, like, you know, and sitting in your shoes, you're like, I got this experience. I've been here, here, and here, and it feels like the way you looked at it was there's an opportunity to earn trust. You know, like just it's the same problem, but looking at it from two different points of view. A lot of people, like in these firehouses, you'll hear complaints, and if you can earn trust through training and through working on jobs and stuff, that's beautiful. Is when you're not afforded the option to earn trust.
That's right.
You know, like being able to earn trust is a beautiful thing. And in the Mississippi scenario, it didn't seem like that was a environment ripe with ability to earn trust. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. And it's funny, man, because with Mississippi, if I would have stayed there, there's no doubt in my mind, the highest rank I would have obtained is probably captain. I probably wouldn't be anything more than a captain. Now, don't get me wrong, captain is the most critical person in the fire department because they have legitimate authority from the chief, but they're in the firehouse with all the folks who get the job done. They're in the firehouse with the most important person in the fire department, and that's the firefighter. Mm-hmm. But I only say that to say that opportunity would not have been there for advancement if I didn't take the actions that I took. There's just no way, unless I was comfortable with working at that respective department for 25 years and being nothing more than a company officer for my 25-year career, then I would have stayed. But I knew I had other ambitions and other goals, and so I was driven to do what I had to do to better myself to obtain those goals. And so going to Hartford and just being a firefighter, I didn't think twice about the fact of me having to earn the respect from the firefighters, because that's what we do in our culture. You know, you're humble, you keep your head down, your mouth shut, you bust your tail, you get the job done, and you move on to the next day and do it all over again. And that's what I love about our profession is you have an opportunity every single day to make a difference. It's up to you, you know, what actions you're going to take, but you have a opportunity to make a difference every single day. So the company officer, whether you're a lieutenant or a captain, as an officer, you have authority. You have the authority from the chief's office to ensure that the mission is obtained, that the tasks are executed. And as a fire chief, I'm well aware of the fact I'm on the 3rd floor downtown. I don't care how many memos I write, how many SOPs I revise or draft. Nothing is going to get done unless my company officer ensures that it gets done. So that's what makes that person the most critical. And then the way that that company officer manages and or leads, because just because you're a company officer or just because you're a fire chief or a battalion chief, that doesn't make you a leader. You're nothing more than a person in a position of authority if you can't execute leadership. And a lot of people forget that. Or they'll tap their chest and say, well, you're going to do this because I said so. It might get done, but I'd much rather have someone work for me rather than them just doing their job. If they put forth, anybody could put forth minimal effort and get something done. But I want someone who knows and understands that they're valued and they're respected. So as I project that as the fire chief and have that direct relationship with the firefighters, as I have my firehouse visits and see the personnel up close and personal, instead of just sending a million memos, they get to see the chief, I get to see them. What's important to me is that that company officer understands that with that legitimate authority, you're also expected to treat everyone with dignity and respect. You're also expected to invoke the type of followership that people want to work for you to do a good job, not just get a job done for the sake of getting it done.
Yeah, I've often pondered if somebody gives you a task and your first inclination is they say, I'm just saying, go wash these glasses, and the first thought that comes into your mind is, or what? If your first inclination is to think about the consequences of not obeying that, there's a problem. Mm-hmm. We have a problem somewhere. There's a disconnect here.
Definitely.
You said it way more elegantly than I could, but it's a good comparison. I also believe that the company officers set the tone for the firehouse 100%.
Absolutely.
I'm a firm believer in that. So
Absolutely.
The engineer and the fireman will all fall suit to what they're subjected to as far as what the company officer does.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I asked that because I wanted to hear the way you put it, your perspective. But I agree wholeheartedly. How about the relationship of the chief to the company officer?
Definitely should be an amiable relationship. There should be a connection. So one thing I did in Hartford and also doing now in Oakland is we have quarterly company officer meetings to where I get to see the company officers in person. They get to see me. All the company officers know that they are expected to get with their respective members in their company, formulate any questions they may have, get that to the senior captain, so the senior captain presents it on their behalf as we have this in-person meeting, and we can get all those items on the agenda. And it's not just me, it's also my deputy chiefs and my assistant chiefs that are in attendance of these quarterly captains meetings as well. And that's been very, very beneficial, very helpful.
Yeah, it seems like it would be.
People want to be heard.
I'm a big fan of this. If you haven't noticed, I'm a big fan of face-to-face conversations.
That's right.
And the email strings and send me an email and do this, do that. It's such a put-off to me. I understand it's sometimes necessary. I feel like I'm not alone when I say this, but it just seems so impersonal.
Exactly.
It's not the same thing
as
sitting down face-to-face. So I like that style of putting butts in seats and getting in front of them and chatting with them versus, hey, shoot me an email.
Yeah, body language, tone of voice. There's so much more to information sharing than just the words.
Absolutely. And there's been a few changes in OFD lately. They've been, I guess you could call them minor or small changes. But those changes have come from me being in the firehouse talking to the firefighters and them telling me what's going on. Sometimes things don't get to the chief. So for all the firefighters out there, you think, oh, why haven't we heard anything from the chief? He hasn't said anything. Well, maybe they have not been advised.
Maybe they don't know.
Going through the chain of command, it may not have got to the chief. Because that's happened a few times to where, hey, chief, just want to follow up on this question that we posed through battalion chief so-and-so or captain so-and-so or assistant chief or deputy chief so-and-so. And what I don't want to do is say, well, no one told me that. Right, because now I'm diming out my officers. I'll go back and have an individual conversation with my officer. Hey, chief, I was at, Station 12, and they're telling me that you're supposed to ask me something. Oh, yeah, chief, I forgot. Yeah, I was supposed to run this by you. So just like I expect my officers to do the right thing and don't talk down about admin when we're not around, me as well as the chiefs at headquarters, we're going to do the exact same thing. And if there has to be a conversation offline, one-on-one, we'll have that conversation offline, one-on-one. But as they finally pose a question, I'll just simply respond and tell them what my thoughts are, and then we go from there. But to dime out or narc out one of my senior officers, we don't play that game. Mm-hmm. But just to let everybody know, we are not advised of everything that you ask.
I believe that.
When you think that you go through the chain and you're doing the right thing, and again, it's not malicious. It's just sometimes people forget to do certain things.
Do you believe that's important? Maybe the chief shouldn't know everything.
I do truly believe maybe the chief should not know everything.
Okay.
I truly believe in empowerment. So, as a company officer has legit authority from the chief, I expect you to make a decision. Deputy chiefs expect them to make decisions, assistant chiefs. And I tell my officers, the only way you're going to hear something from me in regards to a decision that you make is if you don't make a decision. If you make a decision I disagree, we'll have a conversation. Other than that, I expect you to exercise leadership. So one example of someone making a decision and me following up, having a conversation with them, we had a scenario to where a pedestrian was hit by a car. And in California, we're having a serious issue with ALS transport, or even BLS, but mostly ALS transport by private ambulance companies. So the wait time that we got was 20 minutes plus, and this was a critical trauma patient. The captain made a decision to put the patient in the piece and respond code to the hospital. The captain was scared to death they were going to get some paperwork or get called to the chief's office. Scared to death. And that just got back to me informally. Oh, chief, the cap's shaking in her boots, think you're going to suspend her for violating department policy. So what I did in response, I went to the house when the captain was working, same shift, with the crew. I thanked the captain for her actions and said that she saved that person's life. And thank you for making the right decision. Was it in violation of department policy? Yes. But she made a decision. Mm-hmm. And that person's still here because of what she did. So even if that did not make it to my desk, I would have been totally fine with the outcome because everything worked out. Now, sometimes things don't work out.
Right.
But again, we'll have a conversation. We can talk about it. It's not the end of the world. We have learning experiences. We're all human. For me, the deciding factor of what actions I take as a chief is if there is malice. Mm-hmm. If you were malicious in any way, that's going to warrant a response from me as a chief. If you made an innocent mistake or you made the wrong decision based off the information that you had, but you still made a wrong decision or I disagreed, we'll talk about it. But you'll really hear it from me if you don't make a decision at all.
Yeah, we had a good conversation with some of our guys at the First DuCon for some of these really, big industry, what you would say is instructors or leaders. But that was Steve Robertson. That was one of his things is about failing. Failure is a learning opportunity if it's looked at that way, mm-hmm. and not an I got you moment or you messed up and so now we got to criticize or this or not. But yeah, I like it. Mm-hmm. How do we make more of you?
Right.
Scotch and cigars.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a trip. I made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Is what my mom always told me. Yeah.
Do what?
Scotch.
Oh, yeah, I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. So on from Hartford
Yep.
to, I'm walking you through your career here now.
So Oakland. Well, so become fire chief, Hartford, 6 years fire chief, emergency management director, and then came to Oakland.
What was that like?
It was unique. You know, it's what I really love. So Oakland is not your typical Northern California department. Now, Northern California fire departments are exceptional. Let's just say that for the record. But Oakland Fire has a very unique personality. It's very much so more like an East Coast fire department than anything else. And so it was a very easy transition for me. That's what made me choose Oakland, is the firefighters. And they were so similar to my firefighters in Hartford, personality-wise, character-wise.
While you were chief in Hartford, were you traveling and teaching like you do now, or
Yes.
was this okay? So you had already when a department would call you to ask if you would come speak, what did they ask for? What was
A lot of leadership classes.
perfect? Did you have a mentor? Well, I should have asked this a long time ago, but I didn't. So I'll ask it now.
I did. So there's actually 3 people responsible for me being where I'm at today. That's Chief David Daniels, or excuse me, Dr. David Daniels. We walked the stage together for our PhD. He's been a mentor since probably 2003. Dr. Kelvin Cochran and retired Chief Dwayne Dodwell, Fairfax County. He was a deputy chief.
Okay.
So Dr. Cochran, he was the U.S. Fire Administrator appointed by President Obama, Shreveport Fire Chief, and then also Atlanta Fire Chief. And then Dr. Daniels was the Fire Chief of Fulton County and went on to Washington State. He started his career in Seattle, rose to the ranks, became Deputy Chief Seattle, then went to Fulton County, Atlanta, became the Fire Chief, and back to Washington State at Woodinville and Renton, Washington as their chief.
I don't know if you'll be able to answer this question or not, but I'll ask it anyway. What makes, in your eyes, what makes your style of leadership something that other departments would want to have taught? The way you do things, my opinion, is the only way to do them. It makes sense. It's the way it should be done. Oh, am I just that naive to the rest of the country? That's not the way it is? Or you understand where I'm going?
I think so. You know, for me, man, it's my leadership style has been forged off of my experiences early on. And I guess now I almost consider myself like a protector. I don't care what your sexual orientation is, how you identify gender-wise. Don't care what religious preference you have. Don't care. Now what we're talking about is even political parties, political preferences. None of that stuff matters to me, because while we're at the job in the firehouse, you are a member of the organization. You're going to treat everyone with dignity and respect, and everyone is going to treat you with dignity and respect, regardless of who you are as a person. And so that's really my foundation because of my experiences early on in my career.
Simple enough, right? I mean,
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I think it's appropriate
yeah.
to hear you say it like that. The times, the climate of our culture in the U.S. right now, it's only appropriate that it bleeds into our service. It's inevitable,
No, absolutely.
right? So,
And we have to manage it.
That's right. So, if you want something taught, you should probably have it taught by people with experience.
Yeah.
So, hence where you come in.
And to have those conversations head on, I really, really, truly believe in addressing problems before they become a crisis. Because if you don't address the problem, if you just throw your head underneath the sheets, it's not going to go away. It's only going to exacerbate. It's only going to get worse. And that's where you're going to have a crisis on your hands, by taking no action. And so going back to the company officer, who's an extension of the fire chief, who has that legitimate authority, who's supposed to be the voice of reason and calm and guide conversations, just like you make that push down the hall, you're supposed to be also ensuring that you are cultivating healthy conversations in the firehouse as well. You know, we shouldn't shy away from talking about the things that are happening in society. That is putting our head underneath the sheets and acting as if it's going to go away. It's still there. And so we should talk about, why do we always fight when it's time to turn the TV on and we have to argue if it's going to be on CNN or Fox? We should talk about, why are you offended when I say Black Lives Matter? We should talk about, why are you offended when you saw me wearing my MAGA hat outside of work? Let's have those conversations, but they truly have to be conversations. Don't point fingers, don't yell, don't scream, don't cuss, don't belittle. Have an adult conversation and try to understand the why behind why people feel the way that they do.
I agree 100%. I mean, it's part of the point in the show of this show is to have that. But God, it seems unobtainable.
It's difficult.
Man, it seems like a pipe dream.
It's
You know
difficult.
what I'm saying? It sounds like an unexistent utopia where people can just talk to people
Without getting upset.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's where, if you laying those ground rules. I mean, we had this conversation at one of the firehouses that I won't name because guys are going to get picked on. We had this conversation recently in Oakland just last week. We're in the back smoking our cigars and talking about this stuff. And people had various opinions. But we listened to one another. No one yelled. No one belittled. No one said you're an idiot. Everyone respected everyone's perspective. And we had great dialogue. Did everyone agree? Absolutely not. But they weren't disagreeable. And I think it was healthy. And the more we do that, especially if we always refer to ourselves as a family, if we refer to ourselves as family, it shouldn't be that difficult.
Shouldn't be.
Family disagrees, but guess what? We're still family.
Right.
I'm not going to make you feel less than just because your opinion's different than mine. And so that company officer can lay those ground rules down, sit around the kitchen table or wherever, have these talks and conversations so people can get a better understanding of where someone's coming from.
Do you think we don't do that?
We definitely do not do that. Consistently, I'll say.
Right.
Consistently.
Where do you think that comes from?
Pride.
Pride?
Yep.
What about
And
fear?
Fear, absolutely.
Yeah,
Narcissism.
Sure. Yeah, we had there was some discussion in class earlier today about the fear and stuff like that comes with mislabeling or misrepresenting or whatever, and you just not really saying anything. You just don't say anything about it to anyone just because of the fear.
Absolutely.
I think.
And that's something we should be talking about.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so, you and I having a conversation, like, yeah, Reggie, I didn't want to bring that up because I didn't want to offend you. Matt, dude, what are you talking about? We've been friends for years. Well, yeah, it's still, I just didn't want to upset you. You're not going to upset me. You're upset me if you're not going to talk about it. But let's talk about it. We've been on the job together for how long? You shouldn't be afraid to talk to me about anything. Those are the conversations we should be having with our family members in the firehouse.
I 100% agree with you. Let me throw this at you. You mentioned in that example right there that there was, we've known each other for how long? We've been on the fire truck together for how long? Years, right?
That's right.
I think the hurdle now is not with the people that we've worked with for years and offending them and offending the people that we know, because we have this established trust or complete distrust. Either way you want to look at it. Either way, it doesn't happen with the people that you know, and you know the personality of them, where you don't like them, trust them, don't trust them, but you're aware of how that relationship goes. I believe the fear is the newer crowd coming in, where this line of trust has not had the opportunity to be has not had the opportunity to come in fruition yet because of the anxiety of offending someone in that process. The way me and Steve talk to each other is, I can't talk to everybody like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that, I think some of the anxiety and the not wanting and the fear comes from the unknowing of, I don't know how to address this person. One, because I'm terrified of offending, and two, people nowadays don't say that offends me. Nowadays in our service,
they'll tell HR.
that's right. They'll carry their ass right to HR, and you'll never know. You'll be blindsided. Like, well, I had no idea. Sorry. Here's your papers. Yeah. Will you resign? Mm-hmm. You know, that's real. I mean, that's 100% real. What advice do you have there? I mean,
so how often? That's a great question, right? So I'll ask you this question. We get new folks ever so often, right? Mm-hmm. Every time we get somebody new right outside the academy, their first shift in the firehouse, especially for a company officer, what are we doing?
Expectations.
Sitting them down, right? Every single time.
Should be.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Okay.
We should be sitting them down, having a conversation. And sometimes that conversation about expectations comes after, hopefully, you're asking them about their personal life. Mm-hmm. You know, do you have a significant other? Do you have any kids? You know, did you play any sports? Are you an athlete? What do you like doing? What are you good at? How long do you plan on being on the engine? You're interested in crossing over to the truck since we're a two-piece house. You know, just that's how you build relationships, by cultivating or building that rapport. And so what I would say is, in response to that, as we have that sit down for the first time, them getting assigned to our crew, that's when you can start asking them, what's your preference style for communication? Just to let you know, I'm not a screamer. I didn't like it when I came on the job being screamed at, and I'll let you know right now, I'm not going to scream at you. I'm going to respect you. I expect you to respect me. If I say anything that offends you, I would hope that you would have enough respect for me and trust in me that you can feel comfortable enough to come tell me. And one thing I can promise you is that I'll never intentionally do or say anything disrespectful to you. So I'd really appreciate it if there's anything that I do or say that's offensive, that you let me know. Is that a deal? Yeah, Cap, that's a deal. And so if we did that with every single person on our company, it doesn't matter if they're fresh out the academy, if they're transferred onto our shift, into our house. Just imagine how much stuff could be averted and how many misunderstandings could be rectified just like that.
Mountains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. If we take the proactive action of exercising leadership and being personable and treating people with dignity and respect. It always goes back to dignity and respect.
I had a funny thought when you were talking about preferred communication style. I'm like, you're talking about screaming this and that, and my brain said, well, I prefer text or Snapchat. Be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do if someone told me that.
Right. Oh, you just text me.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I too am a fan of no screaming.
Right.
Yeah. We don't yell on the fireground. We don't yell at each other in the firehouse. Like, there's no point. Just communicate.
That's right.
Yeah.
A lot of missing links. I want to say those conversations go on at every firehouse, every new person that comes in, but I know it doesn't happen in mine, so I can't imagine that it happens consistently throughout the nation.
Right.
Yelling and professional are on opposite sides of this seesaw thing. Like
I agree.
If you're trying to figure out why should I stop yelling, that's probably the number one. Yeah, it's not a pro move.
And as we talked about in the last few days, right? Where does that get you in today's fire service? You know, we talked about the three most common leadership styles: autocratic, laissez-faire, and democratic. And for the longest time, the fire service, you know, the chiefs, they led from an autocratic standpoint. And that would not fly in today's fire service because of the multiple generations that are in the workplace and the expectations of these individuals in the workplace as far as how they're going to be treated. And they're wanting to feel as if they're valued and a member of the team. And so, as I said earlier, I think it was either yesterday or earlier today, the only people that practice an autocratic style of leadership are those who don't know that it's dead. And the only time we should be autocratic is on the fire ground during an emergency. But even then, we need to keep an open ear out for someone who's trying to convey a safety issue. Outside of a safety issue, yeah, we'll talk after the fire, kid. I get to you. But in the meanwhile, do as I ask you to do.
Yeah, that can be addressed in that meeting, that expectation meeting.
That's right.
In the beginning, for sure. What's your thoughts and what's your perspective and advice on how to gain buy-in with your employees and how to make them feel valued, from a chief standpoint on down to company officers, and then company officers down to lower level firefighters?
Great question. And one thing that I've always held very near and dear to me as a philosophy is that I don't have subordinates. I serve my firefighters as a fire chief. I work for my firefighters. They don't work for me. So, for me, it's as simple as empowering them to be part of the process. The best way in my brief 21-year career, I found the best way to get firefighter buy-in is through empowering the firefighter to be part of the process. So I might explain why we need to do something, but collectively together, we're going to come up with how we're going to get it done. And that's been very, very successful throughout my career.
What about company officers and below? Same thing?
Exact same thing. Absolutely.
That's fair. Mm-hmm. I like it. You said in class, which I loved, the statement that you didn't care about the process. You cared about the result, but you didn't care about the how the process. I think we were probably talking about micromanaging or something like that. I don't even remember what it was, but you said something that resonated with me well, and it was that as a chief, I don't care. I want a result. I don't care how it gets done. That's do right. That. Mm-hmm. Bring me this. Yeah, absolutely. I want a pie. I don't care what's in the pie. I just want a pie. Go make a damn pie. Yeah.
Lemon meringue, preferably. You keep the pumpkin pie. Give me the lemon meringue.
Yeah. That works. That works well for the people that you're assigning that to because it gives them value.
And it empowers them.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Do you believe if something's been done to rob the folks of their value or rob them of feeling important or their empowerment, that there's a way to regain it?
I think first acknowledging the fact that you took it away to begin with. That's part of the healing process with a relationship is acknowledging that, I probably could have done that differently. Or what I tell all of my officers, especially my senior staff, that it's okay to do two things as often as you have to. Say, I don't know, and say, I'm sorry. And even as the chief of the department, I can't tell you how many times I've apologized. I don't care how minute or small the issue may have been. Chief, I sent you an email yesterday. I'm sending this follow-up email just to check back. Oh, hey, I'm sorry. Didn't get back to you. Got sidetracked. It's saying I don't know or I'm sorry is truly important. And for relationships, there has to be an understanding that although I'm the chief of the department, I'm still human and I'm going to make mistakes. So if I'm going to make a mistake and I'm telling you in advance that I'm the most imperfect person within this organization, I expect you to make mistakes. But it's how we respond to the adversity is what's important. And so that putting that value into trust and allowing people to have learning experiences, because that's mostly what we have in life is learning experiences. The only time we make mistakes is if we don't gain any further insight or knowledge off of the actions that we've taken that we should not have done in the first place. If we have, that was a learning experience. And we should all welcome learning experiences, especially when, they're innocent, when there is no malice intended to begin with.
Sure. You had any learning experiences in Oakland? yet?
Ooh, a few. Absolutely. A few, man. Yeah, 13 months I've been chief. I've had a few learning experiences.
Yeah, I understand you walked into quite the shitstorm over there.
It was very challenging. It was a proud department with absolutely great firefighters, but I'm also the 4th chief in 5 years. So, I mentioned the word healing. There's still a lot of healing going on, and the firefighters have welcomed me with open arms. They made me and my family feel as if we've been there for the last umpteen years, and I could not be more thankful for their generosity, their humility, and the love that they've shown me and my family. It's been truly amazing.
Do you think that they knew anything about you prior to you coming?
I'm pretty
How
sure they
big
all
is-
Googled me.
How big is Oakland? 300 plus.
We got 525 firefighters.
Yeah, so 300 plus. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
Getting up there. Well, is that big for U.S.? I don't know. We're
It's
really
Metro.
We're
Metro
really
department.
small, so I have a hard time comprehending the higher numbers. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Metro Department is considered 350 firefighters or above. Yep.
Okay. All right. So normal for, I guess, U.S.
Sure.
On the higher side of normal. Cool. Yeah. I wonder if they did any homework.
I'm not sure. Well, so according to my firefighter, I've heard my firefighters say 1 or 2 times that, Chief, I don't think they knew what they were doing when they hired you.
I think that's a compliment. Yeah, absolutely.
And they said it as a compliment because of a lot of the work we've done together, we as the fire department, to get a lot of the resources that's been taken away from the fire department over the years. So just being their voice, being their advocate, not taking no for a final answer. As we talked about with Churchill earlier, to be able to adapt, regroup, pivot, and execute when you come to that blockade or that wall, and able to get something accomplished that's very important to the organization. We consistently have done that as OFD for the last 13 months, and that's where that came from. They said, yeah, Chief, I think they just thought they were getting someone that they can control, and you're certainly not someone they can control.
A yes man.
Yeah.
That's what they wanted.
Yeah.
There's something.
That's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something incredibly honorable that happens when, even if you take rank and take fire service out of it, just a friend or a member of the public does something for you, pulls over, helps you on the side of the road, like steps up, it goes out of their way to help you in something. But then you add in like the love and the respect for the fire service, and then that, I can see where you were well received.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. It's, again, got some of the best firefighters in the world, but I'm biased.
Right.
And, again, just their heart, the generosity, their kindness. It's not as paramilitary as Hartford.
Okay.
Definitely not that. I'm not used to, it's within our rules, our rules and regulations that they're allowed to wear earrings. Not used to seeing that, but they've been doing it. Been in place for years. I'm not going to be the one to upset that apple cart. But
Right.
as different as it may be in some regards, the heart and the passion, the dedication to one another, dedication to the mission, they are exceptional.
Yeah. Choose your battles.
That's right.
Earrings.
Yeah.
Not that big a deal, is it? Really?
go in the house and put the fire out.
Well, we talked about old school. I'm that old school firefighter, and but I can honestly say after 13 months, it doesn't bother me. My first month there, I was freaking out.
Give you the heebie-jeebies.
Oh man, I was freaking out. I was like, man, what are they? Y'all are rocking the earrings? No, man, we can't do that. But now I don't even think twice about it.
We'll do earrings. We'll do tattoos and mustaches.
Yeah.
Tattoos, I'm cool with. I'm cool with tattoos.
Yeah. That's the new era firefighter.
That's right.
Thing is tattoos and mustaches.
That's right.
Making the comeback. So you've been a chief of 3 departments, 3 departments total. I think there's a nugget in the next question that I'm going to ask you. In all 4 of those, 3 of those, what is the first 4 days of your walking into a new firehouse? What does that look like?
First and foremost, building that relationship and rapport with the firefighters.
How do you do that?
Visiting all the firehouses, all the companies, all the firefighters as soon as possible. Talking about expectations, giving them some insight of who I am, what I expect. But the most important part of that conversation is me asking them, what are your expectations of me as the fire chief? And that's where I really get the nuggets to start drafting my plan as far as what we're going to do or what I'm going to propose as the chief. And then we start developing a strategy on how to accomplish those goals. So like in Oakland, after I met with all the firefighters, I took my expectations combined with their expectations and published a document called Vision 2026. And it was roughly 15 different imperatives or 15 different goals that we had as a Oakland Fire Department titled Vision 2026. That was a combination of my thoughts and expectations as well as their thoughts and expectations.
That's cool. That's and that's the first thing. So that's
Absolutely.
That's prior to politicking. That's prior to checking your office out. That's
right.
Hey, what whip am I driving? That's
Yep.
prior to all that.
Yep.
That's cool.
The foundation.
That's cool. Do you believe that that attitude and that approach should be revisited every so often
absolutely.
within the department, or if that's just, hey, I'm new, but I've been here for 7 years, a decade now. Do you think that's important to revisit and rehab these points of contact with them?
It's important to consistently have that contact. Like I don't have a set schedule when I go to firehouses. If as I'm leaving a meeting, going to a meeting, or especially if I'm leaving a meeting, I don't have anything scheduled, I will stop by a firehouse. Or I don't care if I do have a scheduled meeting. If I'm driving by a firehouse and that bay door is open or my guys are on the apron, I always stop. I don't care if it's just 2 minutes. Stop, car's running, the door's open. I'm shaking everybody's hand. Hey, man, what's up? How's the fam? Y'all doing good? Hey, anything I can do for you? You need anything? Good? Okay. All right, I got to run the meeting. I'll see y'all later. 2 minutes it took for me to do that. But that 2 minutes might as well have been 2 hours because the troops, they really appreciate it. And so I'm always in a firehouse at least twice a week.
How often, how long do you think it takes with you repeating these actions before the guys actually believe that you're being genuine and it's not just bullshit or a check in the box? Like, if they were questioned, what have you done? What have you done to seek the input of your employees or your, as most would say, subordinates? What have you done to seek the input from them? Well, I go by the firehouse and I ask how everybody's doing, but
If your attempt is to try to BS or gloss over a firefighter, they'll pick up on that in a millisecond. So, if it's not genuine or sincere, they're going to pick up on it. And one way that I know that my folks know that it's sincere and genuine is because I don't use the word subordinate. It's not in my vocabulary. They know that the chief has their back, and the chief is going to do any and everything in his power to make sure that we have everything we need to do our job. They all feel that, I believe, in their heart. And so that's what's important to me, is to be able to constantly remind them that your problem is my problem. If you have issues, then I have an issue as a chief.
I like it. My fear is that I hate saying it, but the newer generation of firefighter, the ones that have lived in the firehouse know, like you said, they'll see right through anything, any act that's not genuine or anything.
Yep, absolutely.
But will our younger generation see that?
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think in certain regards they see things differently, the younger generation. So
that was kind.
Yeah, Gen Z, and I think even the millennials, they value more time with friends and family rather overtime. Like my generation showed me the money, right? You need me to work some overtime, I'll work overtime. But the younger generation, their value is in their relationships, there's no value in material things or money. So they'd rather be off and be able to go to a restaurant or go out to the game with family and friends instead of being at work. So they're socially driven, not fiscally driven. But at the same time, they're also intuitive.
That's a good way of putting it. Is there any danger in that for us, or anything we should be maybe a little more cognizant of?
Culture.
Okay.
Yeah, organizational culture is huge. And, of course, we talked about that, culture being values and beliefs and norms. But our values and beliefs, they have to constantly change, to adapt to current time. And that proactive mindset is going to ensure that the culture of the organization is reflective of the needs of the personnel. And so as we continue to give everybody the resources that they need, as we pass the baton of authority to the younger generation, we should ensure that they're properly prepared to execute their duties and responsibilities for the next level prior to them being promoted. And with twice the amount of millennials in the workplace than what's in place as far as Gen X, we have a lot of work to do to play catch up to ensure that the millennials are ready to take on the reins as our new company officers. Because fire service, traditionally, we've always promoted by tenure or seniority. For the most part, you'll take a test, you'll have an interview, there'll be a certified list compiled, but are we truly properly preparing folks? Making sure that they have training, making sure that they have classes, making sure that the knowledge, skills, and abilities that we want them to have as company officers are truly verified and validated. That we don't do consistently in the fire service. But the time is now to start getting the millennials ready to take on these responsibilities when there's 40 million Gen Xers in the United States and 80 million millennials.
Yeah, we'll be next.
That's right. That's right.
We'll be next for sure. Yeah, we've had this conversation, myself and Steve, behind closed doors a lot, but we've talked about it a little bit on the show, and the kind of our outlook on the new crowd coming in, and just how it's just not the same as when we were going in, and kind of the opportunity to earn respect was an unspoken thing in the firehouse through the hazing, and it was just a cycle that had to happen. But nowadays, all that's looked down on. We're not allowed to do that anymore, this sort of thing. So we've had a conversation. Do we suck, or do they suck? Do they suck? Are they soft and they just suck? Or is it us? Or do we need to change the way we do? And then how much do we change without compromising our history and compromising our tradition that has built? How many years has the American Fire Service been around? A long time, right?
Yes.
We can agree for that. A long time.
Started in Philly.
So there's a long line of tradition there. So how can we change without selling out our tradition and our history? Because it's worked for so long. They had the same problems. How did they handle it? It was just different.
Mm-hmm.
I have a shortcut I want to run by and see.
Sure.
The new generation that we're all talking about, the shortcut is on scene, the reverence and the respect for the fire service. If you're bringing your culture or you're observing somebody else's, all the culture, like you said, I don't care if what your sexual preferences, color, skin, any of that stuff. When you're on a job, we just need to perform this job.
Absolutely.
Search, put the fire out. So maybe that's the shortcut, is that conversation to get to know each other, but then the opportunity on scene to perform like we're supposed to. Is that the cheat code to getting everybody on the same page instead of dancing around culture?
So there has to be something that we rally around, and that something has to be our mission. And for me, I like to say that it's our organizational statements, our mission, vision, and our values. But collectively, when I say our mission, the fire service in general, we're all passionate, I would hope. We're all passionate about wearing the uniform and showing up to the firehouse to get it done. I know every single day, even as a chief, I'm excited to show up to the office and serve my members and wear my uniform and be proud of that uniform, be proud of that patch, be proud of that badge. And so although we have different preferences personally, and professionally, one thing that we have in common is a love for the job. And I think if we focus on the love for the job, if we focus on the mission, that's going to alleviate a lot of the anxiety, a lot of the stress, a lot of the tension that we may feel unnecessarily, I might add, when at the end of the day, we have so much more in common than we have different. Mm-hmm. And so Matt mentioned history and tradition in the fire service. And I love when people bring that up, because what I say in response is that out of respect for our history and tradition, that's why we should be seeking change, to ensure that the greatness that was laid before us continues, because we can't keep doing the same things as it was done when we were first established as a profession in Philly. Because, of course, Ben Franklin, as genius as that man was, reason why he started the fire service because he owned so many properties in Philly, and he wanted to make sure his properties were protected in the event of a fire. He didn't want them all to burn to the ground. That's how we got the fire service. And, you know, for me, what's very encouraging is the passion that I see in a lot of the firefighters that I've hired in the last few years. They're just as hungry. They're just as capable as anyone else. You know, again, I consider myself an alpha with the type A personality, and I see that same dog in a lot of these new firefighters that I'm hiring, and that's encouraging. I can see it in their eyes. I can feel it in their hands when they shake my hand. And so our future is very bright, but it's up to us to cultivate the established relationships that we have with not only the folks in the firehouse that we may disagree on politically or socially, but these new folks that we're hiring too, that are younger, that have different perspectives, that see things totally different than what we see it as, because there's still potential for us to continue to be great as a profession.
Well said.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
What would be your advice on dealing with somebody that is hired and they're put in place in the firehouse, and their company officer, their engineer, other crew members around them, whatever it may be, all collectively and together deem that this person is not living up to the standard. They're not performing well. They're not living up to the firehouse standard, whether that be on the fireground or in-house. It's just not working out. What is your advice to do? I know how we would do it in the old days. I mean, you know, you know what I'm saying? We haze your ass until you left. You know, that's the way things were. But that don't work anymore. You can't. You don't solve the problem, for one. And two, you'll probably just get your ass fired instead. So what advice do you have for that? Help me.
We have to coach.
Oof. Okay.
We have to coach, and we have to document. So if there are performance issues, and this is one thing, so my first recruit class in Oakland, entry-level recruit class, not lateral class, but entry-level recruit class, I had a conversation with the cadre. I told them, I'm the only person who hires, and I'm the only person that fires in the Oakland Fire Department. So if you have an issue with a recruit, you need to document that issue, run it up through the chain of command, and if it's bad enough, it'll hit my desk. Other instances, the deputy will take care of it. But if it's looking like someone's not going to make it, I don't expect you to send me a memo out of the blue with no supporting documentation saying that recruit Reggie Freeman is not good for the OFD and we got to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. That's not how we conduct business.
Sounds like an opinion.
It's absolutely a subjective opinion. But if you give me paperwork to where you tried to coach this individual, let's just say now we transition from the academy, now we're in the firehouse, you got a probie, and now that probie's in the firehouse and you have documentation of where you coach this individual, you have the drills, you have the exercise, you have the skills, that they were not up to par, and there's witnesses that signed off on this documentation, and you've sent every instance up through the chain as it happened, because we have a lot of officers that will pile up paperwork on somebody and just have a stack of paperwork and send it after 3 months of someone not performing, and then question why the chief has an issue with them just stacking paperwork on somebody and not giving it to them as it occurred. Because as a chief, if it's time for me to take action, HR is going to have an issue with us not giving this person that constructive feedback as these issues occurred. And so having that conversation, going back to the company officer being the most critical, having that conversation of expectations with the company officers in advance, saying, hey, this is what I expect of you with the coaching of this probie. If you have any performance issues, I need it documented, and every occurrence, you need to send it to me as it happens, so then I can make an informed decision and contact human resources for the next steps of separating if that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I think that double-sided, that two-edged blade of accountability is where you beat the roadblocks.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be glad to hold Steve accountable for his shortcomings, but yeah, I'm gonna need you to just kind of trust me that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that also is real.
Or if someone, doesn't perform, and it's just, again, unfortunately, the culture of our profession is that we don't do a great job in documenting stuff. Or if we do, it's coming across as if we're targeting someone, and then we lose credibility there as well.
Yeah,
so
singling them out.
That's right.
Yeah.
But if you document things as they occur, then that alleviates that issue.
I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
How long are we going to stay at Oakland?
A while.
I say we like I'm there with you. I like to believe I am.
Yeah.
A while. I'm fairly confident. It's my last uniform, so it's been an awesome career, 21 years. But I didn't think I would leave Hartford. I thought Hartford would be my last uniform, and I love my firefighters in Hartford. Now I have that same affinity for my firefighters in Oakland. I love my firefighters in Oakland, but I think my Oakland firefighters, I think they're going to retire me. So then I'll go on, of course, something else, still young.
Sure.
But be there several more years, but it'll be my last uniform job in the fire service.
You're still traveling around and teaching a lot.
Yes. Yeah, God willing.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We should definitely ask Chief the magic wand question.
100%.
Yeah. We only ask this to people we really like. So I'm just no, you get a magic wand. Mm-hmm. You get to wave it one time and change just one thing in the fire service. I think we've done it several different ways, but let's go broad spectrum on this. In our nation, you can change one thing about the fire service and one thing only, and it is all off of what you believe needs to change or what you would like to see different. It could be all fire trucks need to be white, or all fire trucks need to be red. Something that simple or as complex as you want to make it, but it's just one thing.
That's a heavy question.
Yeah.
But
That's why we like it.
But I'll say, if I can change one thing in the fire service, it would be that all of our needs from a behavioral health and physical health standpoint would be taken care of with zero deductible.
I like it.
That would be my ask. We are struggling right now, mental health wise in the fire service. There's more firefighters that lose their lives by their own hand rather than the line of duty. That's a crisis. We have so many firefighters dying of cancer, and that's a crisis. And thank God for the IFF and our General President, Ed Kelly, who's working very hard to address this issue, as well as our General Secretary Treasurer, Frankie Lima, mm-hmm. and everybody else at IFF and DC working extremely hard to address this issue. But we have too many firefighters dying of cancer and dying because of suicide, PTSD, mental health struggles, and it's truly tragic. Truly tragic.
Yeah, we just got our cancer initiative passed here. Just happened. What was that month?
Back in January 1 is when it went into effect.
January 1 is when it went into effect. We've been
it's one of the most aggressive. It's kind of a presumptive cancer policy. It's not presumptive cancer. So if you get cancer after January 1st, then we have a fantastic payout that the state will fund.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's an insurance policy of sorts.
8
Yeah.
years, 8 years in the making.
Yeah,
That's
8 years.
outstanding.
Been working on it for 8 years.
Outstanding.
Finally, we were the last in the country, second to last in the country.
There's a few still left. We were one of the few
last.
remaining that
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
have any presumptive cancer coverage.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a huge win. I love that answer.
Yeah.
That's good. We agree that the mental health problem is a crisis, 100%. But goodness gracious, what an issue to try to figure out.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
If you could bottle up the good vibes after a structure fire,
That's right.
yeah, put it in a little spray.
That's right.
You having a bad day?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We got to figure that out.
I've seen guys argue at the kitchen table. Them tones go off, and next thing you know, they're as they're loading up the hose, high fiving, acting as if they weren't just about to go to blows. Just 20 minutes earlier. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, but good fire is the 360 to morale. If
That's
it's in
right.
the shitter,
That's right.
catch a fire.
Absolutely.
That's good.
It's got to be because it satisfies that desire for purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You put in all the effort and the time, training, and wanting to be good at your job, and then you get to perform.
And I think it's a validation of what we were talking about earlier, as far as rallying around what's our common interest, and that's the mission. It's a perfect example of that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, Chief, we want to be very respectful of your time. I understand you've had a long few days here with us, and
Been a fun few days.
you got to head back out of here in the morning, right?
That's right.
What time you leaving?
Well, flight leaves 7:15. I'm up at 5:45.
Heard that. He's a late riser.
Yeah.
Sleeps late.
Yeah.
What's your normal time for the mornings?
It's about that. Yeah,
Okay.
taking a little girl to school. I got to take one of the two to school. If my wife had her way, I'd take both to school.
Heard that.
Yeah, but yeah, and I enjoy that. It really gives me time to bond and to spend at least that little bit of time with one of my two little girls, because I always swap. It's either taking one to elementary school or taking one to preschool, and of course picking them up in the afternoon. So
That's right.
Nice.
Well, that's great. We appreciate you. Thank you for being gracious with your time
Thank
here
you.
on this show. We really appreciate it. Glad it worked out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I appreciate the invite, man.
Yeah.
I've had a blast.
Yeah, we
Nice to
appreciate
meet you,
it.
Chief.
Likewise.
Yeah, good deal. Thanks for coming.
Take care, Chief, and good luck to you.
Thank you.